The BBC host explained how most Brexiteer MPs believe a no-deal Brexit could still happen on the 29th of March, when Britain is due to leave the European Union, despite MPs voting last week against no deal under all circumstances. Speaking on BBC Radio 4's Today programme, the assistant political editor insisted the opposition to Theresa May's Brexit deal is not crumbling among MPs, even though there are some Brexiteer MPs announcing they will back the controversial withdrawal agreement. A lot of them are beginning to get the scent of no deal in their nostrils. againNorman SmithMr Smith revealed how some Brexiteer MPs believe Mrs May's deal will be rejected. The EU will then demand a long extension to Article 50. And then a no-deal Brexit is likely to happen on the 29th of March. He said, "It's true there are some softening around the edges, but nowhere near enough, I think, to give Mrs May confidence that she can put her deal back to the Commons by Wednesday and get it through. There is still a fairly significant bloc of Brexiteers who seem determined to vote against the deal. In some ways, I think the sentiment has hardened in part because of what seems to have been a miscalculation by Number 10 yesterday in the newspaper article that Mrs May wrote in the Sunday Telegraph, in effect accusing those voting against her deal as being unpatriotic." Brexit News. BBC reporter says MPs still believe no deal will happen. Image Getty ITV. Mr Smith said the claim incensed many Brexiteers who are now incandescent with rage and will vote against the Brexit deal. The BBC reporter said, "There is a fairly large degree of disdain for Mrs May's handling of the negotiations and the sort of debacle of last week with cabinet ministers voting in all sorts of different directions, so much so that some Brexiteers are now mooting the possibility that were Jeremy Corbyn to table a vote of no confidence, they could sit on their hands during that. In other words, they could abstain, which would dramatically increase the prospects of a vote of no confidence being passed, but above all, I think because a lot of them are beginning to get the scent of no deal in their nostrils again. Because remember, Parliament voted to take no deal off the table last week. The calculation is that if Mrs May does not get a deal through this week, then she has to go to the European Council, where she will almost certainly be offered a long delay. She will then have to bring that back to Parliament in the very last week, next week, before Brexit Day on Friday. And the calculation is that Mrs May will not be able to get a 2-year delay through Parliament, and that means they believe that we will still leave on Friday without a deal. So, for that reason, they are digging in rather than crumbling. But the Prime Minister's Brexit deal still has a chance of winning over Parliament following claims substantive changes have been made to limit the impact of the Irish backstop. Former Northern Ireland First Minister Lord Trimble has hinted changes secured with the EU have improved its chances of getting through the Commons. He said the Tory government had succeeded in securing substantive changes that will affect and limit the impact of the Irish backstop. The peer and historian Lord Bew said widespread war weariness could be another reason for the deal being more successful in its third vote.